Militaries named their operations some pretty weird things. Would you have ever guessed that Operation Viking Snatch was intended to stop weapon smuggling? The idea of naming military operations has been around for less than 100 years. It began with Germany in World War I, and the idea of giving secretive names to operations that could be used over radio communications, well, it really took off. There's no set recipe as how operations are named, and, well, that can lead to some really strange names, like the ones we're looking at in today's video. Number 10. Operation Beastmaster. This operation sounds like something straight out of the 1980s, but you won't be seeing Mark Singer here. Back in 2006, the United States military needed to clear what they nicknamed IED Alley East. Servicemen from the 6th Iraqi Army Division, 1st Brigade and 4th Battalion were sent into a suburb of Baghdad to clear 3 neighborhoods. Sunni insurgents were trying to force out the large numbers of Shia civilians living in northern and eastern Baghdad. Before the operation got off the ground, several soldiers took over security in the area several weeks before the sweep. Operation Beastmaster was a success, and over a 3-day period, the army arrested an important target and found stockpiles of weapons and pieces of roadside bomb-making equipment. Number 9. Operation Deliverance. This deliverance has nothing to do with Burt Reynolds, Ned Beatty, or John Voight, but was carried out in 1993 by Canadian forces. Their mission was a peacekeeping operation in Somalia and part of the United Nations mission there. On December 3, 1992, Canada sent almost 1,500 troops, a helicopter division, and the HMCS Preserver, the supply ship, to Somalia. By May, this had turned into a political disaster called the Somalia Affair, which led to marches and protests in Somalia, Kenya, and North America after a Somali teenager was beaten to death by Canadian soldiers. It led to the 1995 disbandment of the Canadian Airborne Regiment and the resignation and dismissal of several officials in the chain of command. Even though most of the mission was a failure, it did free a captured Canadian journalist and took down Somali warlord Mohammed Tiger el-Bahr. Number 8. Operation Nickelgrass. Although it sounds like an operation to take advantage of the marijuana laws in Colorado, Operation Nickelgrass was really an American operation on airlift supplies to Israel. On October 6, 1973, forces from Egypt and Syria attacked Israel. Known as the Yom Kippur War, the Soviet Union started to airlift supplies to Egyptian and Syrian forces, while Jordan and Iraq also sent aid. Facing an Arab oil embargo, President Nixon ordered the launch of the operation to support the Israelis. The next day, the first military airlift arrived at the Lod Airport with almost 100 tons of ammunition. Over the month-long operation, almost 600 missions were flown to deliver equipment to Israel. The last mission took place on November 14th, with the operation giving Israel much-needed military relief. Number 7. Operation Rainbow. Operation Rainbow sounds like a happy operation to bring peace to a country that has been through a lot. But between May the 14th and 18th of 2004, over 100 Palestinian civilians and fighters were killed. It was the largest offensive in Gaza since the late 60s, and its goal was to stop rocket attacks and find tunnels which were used to smuggle weapons into the Gaza Strip from Egypt. The operation was launched after 13 Israeli soldiers were killed in a terrorist attack. The Israel Defense Forces found and disabled 3 tunnels, arrested wanted terrorists, and secured the borders of Gaza to keep out weapons. The military considered the operation a success, but the civilian casualties made it controversial. Number 6. Operation Thundercat. At the end of July 2005, soldiers from the 256th Brigade Combat Team, 3rd Infantry Division, and the Iraqi Army 1st and 3rd Brigade, 6th Division, conducted a series of missions to disrupt insurgents. This operation was primarily a mission for the Iraqi Army to gather intelligence and capture and detain opposing forces, but the United States did provide them with assistance and added firepower. The operation captured almost 200 insurgents and also captured a computer network used by the insurgents to plan and execute missions. Number 5. Operation Exercise Unified Spirit. This isn't an operation to get you excited about your team winning the big game, but a training exercise for NATO held on a regular basis. Starting in 1998 in the Canadian province of Newfoundland, it focused on helicopter and surface attacks against land forces. In 2000, over 30,000 NATO troops completed Exercise Unified Spirit and Joint Task Force Exercise. That year, it took place in the waters of the Caribbean and off the east coast of the United States. This operation is held to train forces and to plan and conduct NATO-led peacekeeping missions, regardless of what country they're called to in the future. Number 4. Operation Woodshed. As much as we would have liked Ron Swanson to be a part of Operation Woodshed, he was not part of the mission to capture and kill Iraqi insurgents in July of 2007. Iraqi forces and their allies coordinated an airstrike on Samud village. On July the 26th, they killed 11 insurgents and captured 13 people suspected of terrorism. Number 3. Operation Beaver Cage. Operation Beaver Cage was an operation carried out in North Vietnam during 1966 through 1967. The United States Navy and Marines had a joint operation on the coasts of Ben Hai River in Quang Nam. The goal was to search for rat tunnels that led to the river. The tunnels were suspected to have been built by a North Vietnamese division led by Pham Ngoc Thao. These tunnels were used to move supplies and launch surprise attacks. Operation Beaver Cage's purpose was to push the Vietnamese out of the tunnels to a location where they could be taken prisoner. Over 18 tunnels were destroyed and a number of prisoners were captured in 10 different locations, while guns, ammo, and grenades were seized. 40 Viet Cong soldiers were also killed, and despite 7 American deaths, the operation was considered a success. Number 2. Operation Focus. Although the actual focus of Operation Focus is quite vague, it was an airstrike initiated by Israel in 1967, and it started the Six-Day War. On June the 5th, Israeli air forces led by Major General Mordecai Hod were ordered to attack the Egyptian Air Force. By lunchtime, 450 aircraft from Egypt, Jordan, and Syria were destroyed. 18 airfields in Egypt were also disabled, making this operation one of the most successful strikes in military history. Number 1. Operation Grizzly Forced Entry. While the name brings to mind a grizzly bear forcing its way into a home, the forced entries were being done by American soldiers in Iraq in 2004 as they searched homes for high-value targets. The goal of this counterinsurgency raid was to find insurgents suspected of attacking coalition forces in the city of Najaf, a smaller city south of Baghdad that's a major destination for pilgrims. So I really hope you found that video interesting. If you did, please do hit that thumbs up button below, and don't forget to subscribe. We've got brand new videos just like this every day of the week. If you're looking for something else to watch right now, why not check out some videos linked to on the screen. And as always, thank you for watching.